Yeah.
I will not be very long. I promise.
Oh, it's all good. We're all fixed up. Super's looking good.
So my question is,
let me turn you up a little. Go ahead.
With respect to the nodes, we have a node that is level 6.
Mm-hmm.
No other node around it will be able to level up.
Not to the max they can level to is 5, right?
Yeah.
No, they can't level up because all the node points are going to the level 6.
No, so the way the zone of influence works is like it's a tier system. So like its zone of influence will expand out, but each individual node still has its own ability to level up. It just can't go above like the highest node next to it.
So
I actually don't think that's right.
As that zone of influence increases, so let's say you start off and you have one node, you rush it, you get it to level 3, then the nodes around it become vassal nodes of that node. If you are within the zone of influence of a vassal node, you are also in the zone of influence of the main parent node. So your experience, whatever you're doing, the dungeon, whatever's going on, the experience is going to both the vassal and the parent node. Mm-hmm. The parent node is dictating which node, how high the nodes around it and how high that they're able to go. So if you have a 6, the most you can have nearby at a higher level is a 5. And then most nearby at a 5 is a 4, most nearby at a 4 is a 3, so on, so on, and so on. And you'll have more of those lower level nodes the lower level you get. So around a level 2 node, you might have 10, and these are all fake numbers here, but at a level 2 node, you might have 10 level 1 nodes around it. But at a level 6 node, you might only have 2 level 5 nodes around it, or maybe even just 1. So it works as a tree, kind of a. Yeah, go ahead.
I completely understand what you're saying. However, if you have a node that needs to maintain its points, you're not going to get points if you're not getting those from these subsequent nodes.
Are you talking about node degradation? Like if the node isn't, the concept of if it's not growing, it's dying? Because you get your individual about that, but your individual
play into it.
Your individual node still levels, right? It's just kind of you just have a hard cap on your level. Imagine it being a video game that you've played and you bought, you bought WoW today as a brand new player and you don't buy any expansions. You have a hard cap on your level.
No.
Why no?
I'm not buying WoW.
Okay. So you bought
just no.
You're playing the free-to-play SWTOR with no expansions. You're playing any game without an expansion. Until you buy those expansions, you have a cap, right? So the main node, you can still, if you have a level 6 node, the node next to it, directly adjacent to it, can still get to level 5, right? That it can still absolutely get to level 5. And even if you keep pumping points into it, it's not going to go above level 5. It'll never go above level 5.
Yeah. So that was my understanding.
I completely understand that. However, my question really is, do the points go to the main node, the level 6 node?
So some of them do. But they're separate. So the vassals get different points than the actual node itself. So like when you're in a node and working on that and leveling that up, that is different than the points you get from the vassals. Yeah, vassals are different from the whole vassal system is completely different from the individual nodes and how they gain experience.
Yeah, the best way to think of it, to simplify it, is I'm in a level 4 node. I'm killing things. I'm going to still attribute 100 node points to my level 4 node. It doesn't mean that those node points aren't going to my level 4 node. But the vassal system will allow 20 bonus node points to then be attributed to the level 5 or the level 6 node that's bordering. So the vassal system, your contribution still helps with the lack of degradation to the main nodes, but it's not like you stop getting points. So if you have a level 6 node and there's a level 1 node right next to it, that level 1 node isn't locked out. It's not locked out until it hits level 5.
I think the kind of the more direct answer is that there, whether it be once it reaches a certain point, then the experience goes to the parent node, or if it's shared right off the bat, regardless, because of the greater zone of influence outside of the vassal system, because the zone of influence grows the higher level the node becomes. And so as long as you're doing something within that zone, it will eventually be giving the experience, the upkeep, whatever, to that node. Now, I don't know if we have this might kind of be a little bit of a follow-on question here. I don't know if we have clear insight on what this is going to be, but my assumption is that even things that you're doing within a town, like within a node, especially a level 6 node, is going to go towards the upkeep of it as well. I think the degradation side is more to say, hey, this level, the degradation thing is more for like the level 2, 3, 4 nodes in my head, where it's like, hey, some guild went out and they rushed this and they got it to level 4 and then they gave up on it and they went over here instead. That now has like nothing going on at it. No people doing trade, nobody doing quests over there, except for maybe people who just happen to go by, but there's no like hard focus there. To me, that's what the degradation system is for, is to basically slowly tick that down over time. That way it becomes wilderness again eventually, and then other guilds or whatever can go over there and do what they want with the area, instead of having to destroy it or anything like that. It's just a weird spot on the map that got some attention at one point, but now it's not getting attention anymore. A level 6 node, if it is popping and it hasn't just been abandoned by everybody, like, it's going to have its upkeep. Like it's going to seem arbitrary for a level 6 node in my head. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I feel like logic flows that if you have a level 6 node, there's only so many of those that can be on the map. It's probably going to be popular with some portion of the population of players.
Well, also the other idea behind that too is to space out the level 6 nodes. So you can't have a bunch of level 6 nodes right next to each other. So basically you have a level 6 node, then a 5s and 4s and 3s and 2s and 1s spacing out. And then from those 1s, you can count back up to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That way these metropolises are spread out and it gives a more natural feel to the world. And that's going to be something interesting, right? Because you talk about tearing down nodes to build up other nodes, so you can unlock new content. Well, you're still going to have, you're only going to be able to raise up a level 5 node. So like, you're not going to be able to tear down a metro and build it up on the other side of the world. You're literally going to have to build it up in an adjacent node in a level 5 node. That's something interesting to think about, that like, it's not going to be that drastic in how metros change.
Entire regions will have to be destroyed for metros to really do like massive migrations.
But I think Hicks said it right. And I think, first of all, they don't want us to know any of this information about exactly how nodes level up and all of that. But I think the way Hicks had said it is the correct way to think about it. Is it works kind of like taxes, where basically if you're a vassal of a certain node, so like the vassals, all your experience, all your taxes, the parent node siphons off a portion of that. So it just takes a small portion. It doesn't take all of it.
Now, what we don't know is, let's say it's 100 that goes to the node that you're actually in. Does it take 20 or does it take 10 or does it receive an additional 10? So did you actually gain 110 experience and 100 went to your node and 10 went, like, I mean, I guess it kind of doesn't matter. It's more of a perspective on how you look at it. But like the detail of it, we don't know, and we probably won't know for a very, very long time. They even within alpha testing, they have been secretive about how nodes are getting leveled up, how much experience is required, time, like all of the most insight I think we've ever gotten on any of it was literally like Margaret or Toast saying, just keep doing stuff in that area and it
Yeah.
may happen. Like not even a solid answer of keep doing stuff and it will happen. They're like, it may happen. Like they've been very secretive about it, even through alpha testing. So
We don't know if monsters above level 11 are giving you negative experience or not. So just try killing a bunch of monsters that are under level 11. Jesus Christ.
Well, and that's
the
a bug.
worst.
I mean, that's a bug at that point, or an oversight, or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah. So I think the node system is going to be one of those things that, especially when it comes to leveling and de-leveling, because that's going to be something that is considered within strategy as well. Do we attack this node and make it what we want it to be, or do we leave and allow it to die and not prosper because our guild, if you have a 3,000 person guild, you can basically, create influence wherever you want to go. And so just by you not existing in one place and going somewhere else, that node may die over time because it just doesn't have enough going on with it. So I know we kind of went around what your question there was, but I think we hit on it a couple of times as far as like the idea is that regardless of where you are, as long as you are in that ZOI, that parent node will be getting that upkeep. But I think especially when it comes to tier 6, a lot of the upkeep is going to be coming from within the actual city or metropolis itself.
Yeah.
And it won't be about monster experience at that point.
Thanks, Thane, Soup, and Bard. I appreciate it.
Okay. Did we answer your question more or less?
It's like, no, fuck you guys.
More or less.
More or less. Yeah. And as we said as well, I think a lot of it is kind of kept under wraps exactly how it's going to work. Because they don't want us to know too much and game every single little bit of the system. I actually had this conversation with forget who I was talking to, but they were like, there's no way they're going to be able to keep that information secret. I was like, yeah, there is. Like, you can do those calculations like way on the back end and then send just the raw data to the server. Like, I don't know.
Well, and it's not that it couldn't be done. It couldn't be found out by the player. It's that it would take literally you having to account for every single person in the ZOI and knowing everything that they're doing for X amount of time.
Yeah.
And like literally spreadsheeting all of that and calculating all of that and recognizing, okay, we got to level whatever. And so could that level of coordination happen? Absolutely. It's the internet. It's gamers. Could it happen?
Well,
Sure.
I mean,
but even if you have 50 people in there who are not contributing to that spreadsheet, it's still an estimate. It's not an exact number, which, I mean, in a game like Ashes, estimates are probably going to be the way of the road, but
yeah. You okay there, Thane? You've been making some weird faces.
No, I'm looking up some New World stuff that we were going to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. Very odd stuff. But I also wanted to bring up, and we need to get a graphics thing for the show. I'm looking at the ZOI thing as well. And like how that works. Because I agree I was going to make the same point as Supers. You have to account for every second, every mob kill, every quest, every financial transaction. It's
gatherable.
Every gatherable, anything you do. And you'll have to get a private server for that to happen. You would have to get a private Ashes server and go in there with your squad of 10 and grind it out. And only 10 of you means it's going to take you 3 fucking years to get to a metro. So will it be solved eventually? Sure. Long term, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be figured out at some point, right? Like it will be figured out at some point, but then they can also just change it. And then like Def's brought up a good point that like Steven talks about a good player experience and like something not a lot of video games do, but having manual controls. Like having official mods, like you have manual controls on things like we're playing Conan Exiles right now, which is a survival game. But we'll talk to the person who's hosting the server and be like, "This isn't feeling right. Can you adjust the values here?" And I think that's something that should be done in an MMO. I mean, that needs to be a team that is dedicated to it, knows what they're doing, and have can't not abusable, right? Like there needs to be checks and balances there to make sure they can't abuse it or fuck up the server somehow. But I think manual adjustments to a game is actually a really interesting idea for a large scale MMO and something that I think should kind of be done to kind of help tailor the experience. I mean, if done right, it'll just improve the player experience.
Well, and I think the hidden side of it on the backside too is if we don't know the details of everything, then they can adjust something and they don't get the player backlash.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing about like nerfs and buffs and stuff like that. If they say, hey, we're nerfing this, hey, we're buffing this, we have a baseline to go off of. And now we know that it is a nerf or a nerf or a buff. If we don't know the details of node leveling and we get into the game and they're like, yo, this shit's going too fast. Like we need to adjust. Like we'll let them get to 2 really quickly, but then we're going to adjust 3. But if we don't know what that experience level is and what that requirement is, like we're none the wiser. And so they're able to make a better game without disrupting and pissing off a portion of their
It's
community.
the same thing we talked about, how they can add in content without ever doing a patch note or telling us, right?
Yep.
They can just add in dungeons and be like, suddenly it just unlocks and we don't know why. Something happened and a new dungeon unlocked, and that was just something that they added in.
I cut you off there, Fane. Sorry.
I was just going to say, in terms of the actual node experience, they could also straight up just say, okay, let's look at the registered accounts. 50,000 registered accounts max on one server. So if this server has 20,000, we're going to tune up the node experience. If this server has 50,000, we're going to tune it down some. They could do it on the back end like that, and you would never know what true node experience is.
Well,
because
that I kind of want to delve into that a little bit, the pros and cons of that, because that is a very interesting approach. And I feel like it could ruffle some feathers, but I also feel like it would help promote good server health on lower pop servers as well.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's interesting.
We have 7,000 people on our new server that just spun up, and we're never going to get a metro. It'll take us a year to get a metro and experience any content. That's boring. So, but what if they tuned it up 3 to 4 times? Not your character experience, just the node experience, so you could actually experience the game.
And also, instead of just player numbers, going back to the heat maps. So adjusting based on heat maps, because you may have only 10,000 players, but 8,000 of them play every night, right?
And if it's all in the same area.
Yeah. So like, depending on how things go, like you would have to do, it would be a lot of like fine tuning and manual adjustments, but I think there's potential there. But it could also be done so wrong. That's what I want to bring up. Is like, I think it's a cool idea. I would like to see it happen, but I could also see, I mean, they can't keep it fully secret, right? Like there's going to be someone who gets fired or someone who's a part of the team or part of the company that tells a friend, then every friend is like, oh, well, they're doing manual adjustments. And then like people start to get this hint and feeling. So like, you can't just do it on the back end and not tell people. You need to be upfront that like, there are going to be manual adjustments based on all of these algorithms. We're going to look at things and fine tune things based on servers.